What's good, everybody? It's your boy, the Kitchen Boy, back with another video. Today, we're talking about one team in specific. We're talking about the UConn Huskies. We're talking about the women's basketball team, the defending champions, #1 ranked UConn Huskies. They are currently 7-0. They're into conference play, which most people know the Big East Conference on the women's side of college basketball is not the greatest. So, the question that needs to be asked and will be answered over the next couple of months is, will UConn finish the season undefeated? And there's two answers. Well, before we do that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Check out what we've done before. Check out what we're gonna do in the future, and all those things. Hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving as well. It's December. I'm going to try to get out a video every day until the end of December, starting today. So today is December 2nd. Try to get a video out every single day of my own little. I don't have a name for mine. Like most people have names for their December like videos or December like run of videos. I don't have one. If y'all can think of one, let me know. But let's get straight into it. So do they finish the regular season undefeated, and do they finish the completed season? Like, do they go through all the way to the national championship without losing a game? The regular season, I think they have a very, very good chance of going undefeated. Now, I was just going back and forth with some people in some comments about certain teams' schedules, and people were trying to tell me that UConn doesn't play a good schedule. Non-conference schedule, I should say. Obviously, the Big East is what it is. But I will say, so let me tell y'all what UConn's schedule looks like, or looked like before, or coming into the season. So they played number 20 Louisville to start the season, Florida State right after that. Then they played Loyola Chicago. Then they played Ohio State, Michigan, and Utah back to back. And then they started Big East play with Xavier. They play South Florida today. They play DePaul, and then they play USC, not South Carolina, but Southern California, at USC. They play Marquette. Then they play Iowa, and then they play Butler. They play a couple of conference games. Then they play Notre Dame. They play a few more, and then they play Tennessee. So to say that they haven't really played nobody, or they don't put anyone on their schedule, is crazy, for one. Second of all, some of these teams that they have on their schedule these schedules have been made a year in advance. Sometimes a lot of these games have been made a year in advance. So you assume, based on what teams have looked like in the past, that these teams are still going to be really good. Florida State, you thought was still going to be pretty good. Utah, you thought was still going to be pretty good. Ohio State, you thought was still going to be pretty good. And not that those teams aren't good, but those are teams that have been ranked over the last 3 to 4 years, so you expect them to still be that. But obviously, Tanaya Latson leaving Florida State hurts them. Gianna Neekins leaving Utah hurts them. Cody McMahon leaving Ohio State hurts them. UConn and Gino Auriemma can't predict that the best player on these teams is going to transfer. So I will say that, obviously, when they scheduled USC, they didn't know Juju Watkins was going to get hurt. The Iowa game, I think, is going to be a really good game. I think Iowa's proven themselves this season to be a really good team. And then they play Notre Dame, which obviously a lot of players left, both due to WNBA and graduation, and some transfers like Olivia Miles. Those games have been in place for a while already, so you can't really give them too much fault for that either. And then the Tennessee game is a big game regardless. It's UConn, Tennessee. So I don't think that they haven't put big games on the schedule. I just think those games that have happened have changed because of the turnover on those other teams. So yes, the schedule looks easier or doesn't look as difficult, but it's also because this UConn team is better and more healthy than it's been in past years. We've seen this team lose 3 to 4 games in a season over the past couple of years, which we're not used to seeing from UConn at all, because they had dealt with so many injuries to Paige and AZ, and to even players like Nika Mule at different points in time. Ayanna Patterson hasn't played in basically 3 years. Ice Brady missed a season. Jana Alfie missed a season. Caroline Ducharme missed a lot of time. The list goes on and on about how many players they were missing. So it gets to a point, and so now they're all fully healthy. They've got the players that they want playing at a high level, so they're back to that level that they were at before. where the games that they were losing before, they're either in those games, like they have a really good chance of winning those games, or they're the favorite going into those games. When you don't have a Page, or when you have just Page or just AZ, yeah, when you go to play Iowa, or you go to play USC, or you go to play Florida State, you go to play a North Carolina or Notre Dame, those games are more toss-ups. Those games are 50-50. But when you have a Sarah Strong, AZ Fudd, a KK Arnold, a Sarah Williams, Ashlyn Shade, the list goes on and on, Kaylee Heckle, the list goes on and on, it's a different matchup. Like, it's a different thought process going into games. So I don't think UConn should get any flack for what their schedule is turned into, because they're always going to schedule tough games, just like Dawn is always going to schedule tough games for South Carolina. Corey Close is always going to schedule tough games for UCLA. So is Texas with Vic Schaefer. Like, the top teams, for the most part, all schedule tough games in the non-conference, because those games are important. If UCLA didn't play anybody, and they played Oklahoma before they played Texas. Like, they played a few top teams, or a few top 15, top 20 teams before the Texas game. But if they didn't play in that, and they were like, okay, we beat Oklahoma, we beat this team, we feel really good about where we're at, they don't get to see themselves against a team like Texas. And if they had won against Texas, then they'd got to see themselves against a team like South Carolina. So those are two matchups, those are two possibilities that you have there, that you're just like, okay. And also, I understand some people are like, oh, you don't want to lose too many games in non-conference. If you're LSU, and this is the team that has been talked about for their non-conference over the last couple of years, if you're LSU and you lose a non-conference game or two, which they did the year after they won the championship to Colorado, I think it was the first game of the season they lost to, that didn't help. That didn't hurt them when they went into conference play. That didn't help. That didn't hurt them when they went into the tournament. Like, that's not something that you're going to get held against. Like, UCLA is still ranked number 4 because they played Oklahoma and they played Texas. There's someone else they played in between Oklahoma and Texas, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But they've played top teams, so you get credit for that. South Carolina only moved back 1 because they played top teams. So, and this is kind of derived from what the point of the video is, but I'm going to get back to it, I promise. But I just think when you're a top team and you're able to play those top teams early on in the season, you can see what you need to work on. It's easier to fix those when you get into January, February, March, than to try to get hit with those problems in January and try to figure it out on the fly against good conference teams. LSU has a tough conference schedule because they play in SEC. SEC is probably the best conference in the nation. So I know a lot of people are like, oh, but they're going to play this team, they're going to play this team, they're going to play this team. Okay, that's fine. But you're not going to do that until January. You're not going to do that until December. So we can only give you so much credit for what you're doing to this point, because even if you're not playing top teams, at least play talent. At least play a Minnesota or an Illinois in past years, not necessarily this year, but like there are different teams that you could play that still give you a challenge. And if you go and you blow those teams out, then you get your credit for that. But beating teams like Tulane, and I'm not even going to get disrespectful and say all the names, like the type of teams that they play, but like y'all know, like if you follow women's basketball, you know the type of teams that they play. It's a difference. But when it comes to UConn, they're playing at an extremely high level right now. I don't know if I see them losing in the regular season. I think the team that has the best chance of doing that is probably Iowa, because I just saw I think UCLA might have played Tennessee. Yeah, UCLA just played Tennessee too. So they have multiple games that, yeah, that's neither here nor there. But I think UConn has the edge over USC because not only do they not have Juju Watkins, but I don't know if USC can score with UConn. And that's the thing that's been huge for UConn the last 2 seasons, I would say, is their ability to score efficiently is back. And it's not like they couldn't score efficiently before, but they didn't have enough players that you trusted to score. Last year when you had Paige and you had AZ and you had Sarah Strong, you had so many different options, and then you still had a player like Ashlyn Shade that could make a 3. You had a player like Caitlin Chen that could hit a 3 and get to the rim. So it just makes things more difficult. And now, not only do you have AZ Fudd and you have Sarah Strong, you have Blanca Quinones, you have Sarah Williams, you have KK Arnold, you have Ashlyn Shade, you have Kaylee Heckle. you have all these different players that are all capable of doing a bunch of different things, and a lot of those things on the perimeter and shooting efficiently. So when it gets to these games that you're like, okay, could they lose this game? It's hard to see them losing because even when they're not efficient offensively, their defense is elite enough to keep them in games or to get them turnovers and get out on the break. Like their toughest matchup to this point, and maybe all season, will be Michigan. And for the first quarter was completely in UConn's favor. Second quarter was a mixed bag. Third quarter and fourth quarter was Michigan, and the fourth quarter was a toss-up. It was back and forth. So with UConn, you're going to have to play at basically a perfect game. Like, you're going to have to hope that they don't play well, and you're going to have to play like your best game of the season, essentially. I think Tennessee can give them problems because they have a lot of athleticism and size and speed, and if they're able to shoot the ball at a high level, they have a chance of winning that game as well. But I do think them losing to Tennessee last year, since that was basically the launching point to them realizing, like, okay, we're not going to win the national championship if we can't get past teams like this. And it's not a disrespect to Tennessee or anything like that, but they lost to Tennessee, and then I think a week or two later they played South Carolina, and that was their best game of the season by far until they got to the conference, or until they got to the national championship. But I don't see them going into a Tennessee game and losing that, and I'm pretty sure that's at home too. So I don't see them losing that game either. So I would say that the toughest game for them is probably Iowa, but that one's also at home. And I don't see Notre Dame having enough talent to keep up with them for 40 minutes. I just don't. So I think UConn ends up going undefeated in the regular season. Now, are they going undefeated and winning the national championship? I do have them. They are my pick to go to the national championship. But to say, like, oh, yeah, they're 100% going all the way through undefeated, it's a tough question. It's a tough answer. But from what we've seen, we don't really have a reason to not believe it. Obviously, Texas looks really good. South Carolina, I still think, looks really good. And I still think UCLA looks really good. And I think the loss to Texas could be better for both South Carolina and Texas, and UCLA than people think. But I will say Texas is going to have to play at a much higher level offensively if they're going to beat a UConn in the tournament. Because I cannot stress this enough. UCLA has a great offense. Like, I think they're a top 5 offense in terms of talent. There are some times where it doesn't look as natural as it should with all the talent that they have. UConn's the complete opposite. Even if they're not making shots, they're getting good shots every possession. It's very rare that they come down the court and they shoot a bad shot, or they get a bad shot, or they get a shot that you're like, I wouldn't have taken that, or I don't like that shot. No, they almost always come down the court and get a good shot. So that's the thing. And then again, their defense is way better than most people think. Most people think UConn, they just think offense. No, UConn praises themselves, or they make sure, or Gino makes sure that the defense is the most important thing for them as a team. Like, he would rather them play elite defense than elite offense, because then you can still fix the offense. It's harder to fix defense than it is to fix offense, in my opinion. But yeah, I think UConn has a really, really good chance. I mean, they're at least getting to Final Four. Like, I don't think there's a team around. Like, I don't know if there's a team behind Texas, UCLA, South Carolina that can get them. I mean, these will be neutral floors. I do think if there's a rematch with Michigan, that's interesting. Oklahoma, I don't know. We saw that game last year. Page went insane in that game, so maybe they're like, hey, they don't have Page this year, we have a chance. Which I wouldn't necessarily disagree with. I think Sarah Strong and Reagan Beers is an interesting matchup. And I think Peyton Burroughs is ready for that kind of matchup and ready for her opportunity to get closer and closer to a national championship. I don't know about Maryland or TCU, but I like both of those teams. And then for LSU, I mean, I guess we'll see once the SEC play starts and we see them play against teams like Texas and Oklahoma and South Carolina. Tennessee, Vandy. I do think they're in that conversation, but I want to see them play teams. I'm just like, it's just it is what it is. You say that in everything. You say it in the NBA, you say it in the NFL, you say it in college football. Like, I want to see you play the top teams first. Like, I can't give you the nod with the teams that you're playing. I just can't. So, UConn's been playing phenomenal basketball, so I'm gonna give them the nod and say that I do think they'll end the season undefeated, and at the very least get to the national championship. Win the national championship, don't know yet, but they will be in the national championship in my opinion. I don't know if there's going to be anyone that beats them before then. Oh, well, I was like, what? That's not. Sorry, I'm reading some, and it says Clemson versus BYU. It says BYU is ranked number 9, but it says women's basketball. BYU is not ranked number 9. BYU not even ranked, are they? Yeah, BYU's not even ranked. Okay, that's got to be something different. But that's neither here nor there. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you guys tap in with everything else that I'm doing in December. Gonna be trying to bring in different kinds of videos. I'm gonna try to bring back some player spotlights as the season is really kicked off now, and I can get more in depth about what they're doing in this season specifically. And I'm still working on the passion project that I mentioned last week. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago at this point. No, I think it was last week. I will probably drop the graphic for it this week so that people know more of what it's going to be about. So make sure you guys are tapping in with that as well. And once again, I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.